Good evening to everybody. It's a great privilege for me to be here for the second time. The first time I came last year, invited at this beautiful festival. And for me, I learned so many things, and I was so enjoying the festival and the place that reminded me somehow something that had to do with my upbringing, that I decided to come back to Kerala and spend some more time here. So this year is my second time here, and I'm very happy to be here with my friend Gauz, who is a dear friend, and it's very interesting also to meet friends and writers in festivals that are not held in the Western countries. I mean, often because of the publishing houses or where the power is, we meet and we circulate into festivals that are held in Europe or in US. But here is a different kind of, I think, exchange and a different discourse comparing to. So that's the presentation of your book. So maybe, because you can say something about also the title of your of the meeting, yes, the conversation, starting with.
Thank you, Ubah, and thank you everyone to host me here. My English is not so beautiful as it must be, but I will try my best to be the most subtle possible. As you know, I think in French and in my mother language, and it is not easier for me. It's not always easy for me to speak in English, so I will try my best. I will try my best because I have some subtle thing to say. What is the theme of this encounter? A white man's eyes. Camarade Papa, a white man's eyes. A white man's eyes. The book speaks about colonization. It speaks about colonization. It is a story. It is set as two stories, which mix up into the same book. The story of a white man, 20 years old, which is poor in the center of France at the end of the 19th century, when the colonization were launched. And this poor young man, as every migrant, dreamed to change his life, moving into another land. And the land he thinks of at that time was Africa, the colonization of Africa. So he's a regular migrant. And in front of this, I'm telling a story of a boy, 11 years old boy, which is so-called mixed race, born in Netherlands, and have the Netherlands language as mother language, and learn to speak French while hearing the Marxist speeches of his Marxist parents. So he have a word of sort of way to express himself. So globally, the book is about colonization. So that means capitalism and his son, the colonization. And saying that my book is a white man's eyes on the colonization, we are already deep into the subject of being colonized people. And you know, if I was a white speaker, a white novelist, and tell a story about a Chinese, an Indian man, or a black man, nobody will dare to ask me if I have a black man or a Chinese man eye while writing. And you know, yeah, and that title says something of what we are right now. We of what of how colonization has twisted our own mind without thinking. If as a writer you invent a character which is a thief and a murderer, nobody will dare to ask you. So this is the eyes of a thief and a murderer. You regular people will just say, you are a writer, an author, and you are invented a character. No matter what is the character, the color of the function of this man, nobody will dare ask you, are you a thief? Are you a Chinese thief? An Indian murderer? No. But just talking about colonization make us feel rightful dizzy in our minds. This book is not a white man's eye under colonization. It is the eye of an African, of an author, speaking about colonization and inventing character to set up his story so that you can read such a story. I want to begin by this kind of statement. I am not agree with the title, A White Man's Eyes. I'm not white. I will never be white.
Thank you, Gauz. I think that that's very important because often, I mean, we are supposed to be the character of our own stories, and it's very difficult to skip away from this kind of idea. So what he was saying is very important because, I mean, somehow they assume, I mean, for the first time that when I was writing, they were assuming that the person who was talking was myself, whereas was not myself, or maybe because at the time I was living in Italy and migration, people coming from the continent were, but especially from Somalia, the Horn of Africa, were Somalis, and we were supposed to talk only about this. And whereas when you are a writer, you have the power of your imagination. As you were saying, you can make up everything. You can because you are not describing yourself. I mean, it is the duty of the writer, by the way, to invent and to feel. I mean, to empathize. Empathy is one of the most important things that a writer should do. And I was very struck as well, Gauz, when you were saying today when we were talking and you were talking about your first novel, which is De Boupaillé and The Standing Heavy in English, which was translated before Camarade Papa. And when the critics, I mean, also the reviews were always talking about, wow, how amazing is that a man who is working as a how do you say security guard in a place was able to write such a book, and whereas it was a writer, not a security guard, who was writing the book. So you can say something about this, and also that what we were saying about the reverse anthropological gaze, which is somehow related to what you were saying.
Yes, it is absolutely that. The thing is, when you are like on these parts of the world where I live, whatever you do, you have to you have something on justifying yourself to be at the place you are. More when you are an author, you are supposed to be, you're intelligent, intellectual, something like that. And you are not supposed to be at that place. You are, and so you're always moving, and yes, I earned my place, my fucking place in this place. And it was very delightful for me seeing people talking about my first novel, Standing Heavy, as a reverse anthropology. Reverse anthropology. That was a kind of insult, but I took it good. I am all right with that. What means reverse anthropology? That means anthropology has one sense, the sense of a white scientist studying overseas people. It means that. And they wrote this title in one of the greatest literature review in France, Reverse Anthropology. I was not shocking. I am used to see such stupid things. And anthropology is anthropology. That means you look at your people around you. But always, it was this book was Standing Heavy was just an history of a security guard gazing to the people falling into consumptions of this modern capitalistic world on Champs-Élysées, the embassy of consumptions in the world, luxury, things like that. And this was the gaze of an invisible security guard. And his word was so true that you just have to describe what happened to a shop to be great author. If you want to talk about this subject, you just have to go into Guérin, Sephora, or Decathlon, or all those big international shops, and look at how people behave, and you will have great stories. And that was the story of this book. But they say that it was reverse anthropology. That means the good sense. I was not in the good sense. I was going backward. I was not in the good place. I was supposed to be in the place where the white anthropologists, the powerful anthropologists will study me. And that was crazy. And most of the time, we speak about why we are writing and know about what we have written. And I'm used to that, and I'm okay with that. But the years going, they have understood that there is no particular place for a black author. An author is an author. Point.
About the reverse gaze, because I found this quote about Camarade Papa, and where he's saying, I mean, this character, this white character who is traveling in Africa and somehow is a reverse migration, no, from the one that we are used to colonize, of course. So, but anyway, to change his life, because all migration is something that everybody should be able to do. But this quote, I love this quote because the character is saying, we often laugh at our own expenses. So he's describing how people in Africa are looking at him. And he says, we always think about the anthropological gaze, that we are looking and describing these people that lives in Africa and are savage and they don't have culture and so on. But he's so aware that he understands that he's looked in a different way. And for me, Gauz was very interesting because I grew up in Somalia in the 70s, and from a Somali father, but my mom was white. And this is something that I always say, because at the time there were white people, but they were living in a very in areas where Somali didn't go usually. But my mom, since she was married to a Somali woman, she was just going around the city. And the small cousins of mine were scared about her because she was white, and they had never seen somebody who was white, and her hair was long, and yeah, they were just crying when she appeared. So this is also, I think that this is very interesting. And I would love also, I don't know, because if you want to say something about because we always keep talking about language, because we are somehow, when how you use language, I mean, in your novels, and what is also the legacy of language for you and for me as well. I mean, we come and we write in a colonial language after all. So what would you do with this language?
It is not a problem for me to think, dream, speak into the colonial language, because it is a matter of history, and I'm not responsible of that. And I am okay with that. And I went to school and learned into French, and read all the big French classics, and know a lot of things about France and British and America's civilization. Of course, because we come into my country and force me to learn that. I am okay with that. I am okay to learn about other people. But I have my own culture, and I live and grew up with this particular culture, with another way of thinking the world, of loving, of being in joy, of laughing. I have this cultural part too. So I grew with two parts of the world in my little body, and that is wealth. That is wealth. So, and using French, I can invent some way of speaking French or English, because I have these other sides of my history, and playing with a language is like a great pleasure for me, you know. And Western people, because they are the one who have the force, they are the one who stand the speech. They have the speech, they have the power, something like that. So, and they feel naturally, very naturally, they feel superior. Very naturally, they don't do nothing to feel superior. It is a matter of history, but there is a great disadvantage of that position. They have never opened their minds on the local culture. But the local culture is aware of their culture. So the local people are richer, more rich than they are like blind, one-legged people, you know. And the history of French and British literature shows that, you know, Wole Soyinka, his way of using the language is powerful, extraordinary. And it is the same case with French-speaking people. The extraordinary, vital, inventive, creative languages. And I have inherited of that tradition of playing with the colonizers' language. That's why at every publish, everybody is surprised. What What a fucking surprising language. Camarade Papa, this book, has two styles. You know, the white man leaving France, it happens in the 19th century. So while talking as this guy, I use Émile Zola's Victor Hugo languages. I use this. When he is French, he's a working class people, he's a poor people. So I use Victor Hugo to speak about this man. And because I am able to do this, but they are not able to speak like I speak. I am able to speak like Victor Hugo. So that a French critic said that this part of your book is a great French literature. He said that. And then the men leave France and go in Africa. Going in Africa, I use another language to express the thing around this character particularly. I use the ethnologic language because I am able to do that. I know this way of describing African people, foreign peoples from a white man. It was easy for me to do that. So that another critic said that it is a great ethnologic book, into the same book. And then there is a third language, the language I have invented and give it into the mouth of these little children, who speaks French with communist terminology. That was pure invention. And another critic said that it is linguistically a great book, and that was the case. And 3 ways of use language, 3 ways, because we are able to do that, because we are aware about the world, and they are not aware about our world.
I love this thing also that when I mean you create this character, this young boy that using he's not aware that he's using these words about communist word that he heard, and even sometimes he misspelled the words, he invents new words, and somehow you don't say that this is not. I mean you don't say it. You maybe a reader can guess that sometimes ideology can be also very dangerous when you don't understand. And you just absorb the language without understanding, without possessing somehow the language. It can mislead you in a way. And I like also when you were talking about, it's true that we have that language. You have French, I have Italian, but French people don't have all the languages and all the knowledge that you have. And also somehow this thing that you always say about this double layer that is in the writing, that also you can see it especially in irony, because some people, maybe a French reader would understand something that makes him laugh, but maybe an Ivorian or African reader, a different reader, can understand something different. And yes, but is it easy for you to work on this language? Because you were before you were also saying that in a way, this is not something that is so easy. I mean, when I arrived, for instance, I told you, when I arrived in Italy, because people were not somehow recognizing me as part of the country, part of the nation, I would speak in a more sophisticated way, because for me it was a way also to say to the people that I belong to this place. I can do with the language whatever I want. I studied in this language. This is my mother tongue, of course, and often my mother tongue for me is very ambiguous, because they always say their mother tongue is the language that you speak inside the house, and so the language of intimacy, the language of the household. Whereas for me, it was both the thing. It was the language of the house, of my mother, which, who in that situation in Somalia was not a powerful colonizer. She was just a young white woman who was very far from her family. So for me, this double vision of the white and the colonizer had, for me, was very important for my upbringing, because of course I was recognizing the history, what was the history of Somalia and what were white men for Somali people. But at the same time, for me, Italians were also this very young and white woman who was living there. And but at the same time was also the language of power, the language of my formal education. And when I arrived in Italy, everybody was telling me that I was speaking like a book. Yeah, he made him laugh. And but it's interesting because you also say that when you wrote the first novel, you wrote in a different way, and then you decided to change the style.
Yes, yes. When leaving France and coming back in Ivory Coast, I decided for my first novel to write this about this security guard who is gazing people, and I did it into Negro literature way. You know, the big Negroes literature ways, you know, with the big sentences, always trying to prove to everybody, you know what, I know your fucking language, and I am good at speaking and writing your big, great language with this great history. I am good at that. And that is the, come on, how you say péché? A sin. That is the sin. That is the sin of most of the great African writers, showing to people that we are good to speak this language and we are so great on that. And it is the birth sin. And I did it. I did those things because I was able to do this. I have the capacity to do this. A lot of English people, a lot of French people, German people can't write in their own language like we can do. I have the capacity to do that, and I did it. And when finished my first version, I remember I like woke up like from a dream. Oh no, I'm not in France anymore. I was in the deep forest of Ivory Coast, like 600 kilometers from the capitals. And while reading myself, see what that means, brother? What is that fucking good French from France in this area? What that means for you? And say, okay. I did it like the title of this meeting. You didn't think about that till something say to you, hey, you, wake up. What are you doing? And when I woke up, I decided to do the thing I used to do when I write. Find a structure, an original structure. Find the language, the own language of this book, and redefine the storyline. So I break up all the things I have written, and set up like what I consider a German engine, you know, with a lot of little things, and that works well. And it was particularly for me to break up those. It was joyful for me to break up those great sentences, those great Émile Zola's sentences, and put it into a way that if you are an Ivorian and you read one sentence, you understand something. if you are a French and you read the same sentence, you understand some other thing. More, because laughing is important for me. More while writing something very, a joke, you know. My purpose on every sentences was to make laugh French people in that way, in that part of the sentence, and make laugh black people into the sentence, the same sentence, but in that part. And that was delightful. It is when you know that you are inventing something. Even in the title, the French title of this book is Debout Payé. When you translate it directly, you know, directly, when you translate it, that means stand and be paid. You know? And if you are French people, Debout Payé, it's like one word. Oh, what is your book about? My book is about a security guard who is standing, gazing people, and waiting to the end of the month to be paid. Oh, that is funny. But into the same title, Debout Payé, for an Ivorian. What is the title of your book again? Debout Payé, ha 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 in life, because it sounds sexual. It sounds sexual because there is like a sexual position which is it is like close. The pronunciation is close, and that's when literature began. That's when fiction began. It's not a question of color of your skin, of the position of the colonization you are. Literature is absolute freedom of invention, inventing characters, invent characters, invent story, invent statement. This is the point, and that is where we are for we mixed people, because I am mixed.
Yeah, I think that's because also related to the title of the festival, change. I mean, the freedom of changing language. I mean, it's a human. Is something that all as human beings we have the right to do. To change the language. Language is not something that we put in a place and we keep it, and we cannot. Everybody has the freedom to change a language. I think that is very interesting. And in a way, I remember something Gauz you said in Calicut now in one of your last meetings where I was, and you said. You were asked about colonization, and you said, I don't know why they always ask us about colonization, and it made me laugh. This is why I'm remembering this. Your answer, you said, the Romans colonized the French and the Gallic, and it was much more violent, and it lasted for. And I mean, French was invented because Latin is a new Latin language, and and they kept from the Latin and from Roma good things. So we also have to. It is a burden, but with this burden we have to do something and to keep something of this kind.
It is not a burden for me. It's not a burden. It is an enrichment. French is a broken Italian, of course. Even English is a kind of broken Italian because they were colonized by Romans too. And the English bourgeoisie during a lot of centuries, they used to speak French. They goddamn speak French. And nobody asked them for, your language, is that your mother language? Shakespeare is a kind of Italian. Emile Zola is a kind of Italian, and nobody ask for this colonization. They are still speaking the language of a colonizer. Nobody asked them about that. It's just a question of power. when you have the power, nobody asks you, where are you from? What? No, 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 no. It's always towards the ask, you're Indian. To Salman Rushdie, how many times they asked to him, what is the part, your Indian part in your writing? Go fuck yourself, brother. I am just an author, and nobody remembering that France, Spain, Portugal, they were colonized by Romans. Bro. And they still, 2,000 years after, they still speak like their colonizer. More, what is the essence, the quintessence of a Frenchness? Isn't wine and bread, la baguette? The both things are not French. The both things come from Roma. Wine and bread. Now it is the quintessence, it's the essence, full essence of French nation. I am a French author, so I can ask for my wine and my bread right now. If I were white, nobody will ask me for that. And we just have to, the history of all people in this planet is a history of conquest, mixing with other people. Some people come with force, others come with subtleties, and the religion, even their religion, come from Palestine. What are we talking about when we are talking about colonization? What are we really talking about? We just have to assume, and say that, okay, that is a matter of history. Now, who I am and what are my ideas of this world right now with the means I have to think this world. The question of language is a question of power. The question of language is a question of power and domination. So we can do like if we are not aware of that. We know what we are doing when using French. One of my greatest pride last year was to be translated in Malayalam. I swear, I didn't know what was Malayalam as a language. My French publisher just texted me, you know what? You have a Malayalam translation. And I didn't reply anything. I just took Google and said, Malayalam. And now see that Malayalam was the language of Kerala. I didn't know Kerala last year. I'm right here now. Last year I didn't know Kerala. So I began to read about Kerala. And I discovered the communist, the communist past of Kerala. And that was very fine, but good, but was interesting. And it is a story of discovering each other. Now I live in Vagamon, and yesterday I was at the meeting of a communist party, PCM, and the flag, all the thing that this doesn't exist nowhere on the planet. And I have a daughter. She's 21, and say, you have found your real country now that you are in Kerala. And it is about that. It is about being connected, sharing something, taking something, and giving something. And it is about that. And we have to rethink colonization, the definition of colonization. We have to rethink that, redefine that. We have to rethink what we ask for this, what we ask really when we are talking about this matter particularly. We have to redefine all this. And I think that we are We are not, and we are already into the answer because we are that.
Yes, I was about to ask you to say something about your experience in Vagamon because I think that is interesting.
Oh,
Also,
so,
this thing,
so,
yeah.
so interesting.
Yeah.
I went to the church. I went to the church, Catholic church in Vagabond. I was raised Catholic. My brother is a fucking priest. You know, Catholic priest, you know, with the big thing, and he speaks Latin, Greek, and he has like a PhD, uh, droit canonique, right, canonic rights, you know, and his mentor, the mentor of my young brother was Ratzinger, a German cardinal named Ratzinger. He became pope. And this is my family, you know. I'm not Catholic no more, and I'm okay with that. But that was my education. And discovering the Catholic way in Kerala, that is a great thing. And I wasn't thinking about colonization. That, what, colonization have nothing to do with this way of praying God, spiritualism. That, there is no colonization. They told me about Saint Thomas, things like that. Ah, that is a good myth for me. And myths are the supports of our faith. And I'm okay with that. This is nothing to do with colonization. No more. No more.
Open the floor. If you have questions from the audience, it will be nice. I don't know how much time do we have.
You were talking about the use of language. In India also we have a controversy now, not a controversy, a debate going on, that the language so far used has been the language of the upper caste. Now there's a lot of writing from the Dalits actually. It's called Dalit literature. The language itself is changing. Similar way, there is something in Kerala we have something called Pennarutha, which is written from the feminist point of view, female point of view. Don't you believe that your language depends a little bit on who you are?
Not totally. Not totally. Not totally, because language is an heritage. We haven't been dropped from the sky to be here. We African, and I think you in India, are very connected with the ancestor. And the point is, you carry, it is not a burden. You carry what, you are the, you are like a succession, you are the perfect achievement of succession of points of achievement. And you are the last one when you are alive. So you carry this past. That means with this way of speaking, of being, and you brought something of yours. You brought something of yours and give it to other people. So you are just a point into a chain. You know? You're just a point. You were speaking about, you said that about language. People speak like high educated people.
No, actually in India we have many castes, you know that, no?
Yes.
So some castes were on the upper level and some castes were at the bottom. So there's a different way of speaking for these people.
And you know, and that tells language, tell the differences between people.
Now the people at the bottom, used to be at the bottom, they are creating their own literature. Just to fight with the other people, other language actually.
Yes, and it is a good way of fighting by creating language. No violence, no things like that. You just and you know what? In every place in the world, it is the case. In every place in the world, everywhere, even in Ivory Coast, you know, speaking, I can speak in a certain way when I speak I speak with some people, like great educated people, and I can speak like them, you know, but I can speak like people into the like poor people. I am good at speaking like poor people. So my resistance now is to speak like poor people when I am on a TV show. And people like that. It is a form of resistance. Language say a story about power. You know what? You know what? In England, before 19th century, you know, the official language was the bourgeoisie language in everywhere in the world. And then come education. Education for everybody. And it is, for me, it is in education that we will put the equality of languages. Because he who have the good language, he has an advantage to succeed in this world, because the world is a question of language. If I speak English like a lord right now, I will be able to apply for good job. But if I speak English like a Jamaican Rasta, I will not be able to apply into a good white office.
When I was speaking a language about a burden, I was not speaking about inheriting a language, but I was precisely talking about this thing of policing the language, and that's very interesting that the way you speak, the way you use language represent also, it's something that has to do with power. And for me, it came to mind when you were talking about Malayalam and how the language was used by different people of different castes. Once I heard is in a very different place in South Africa. The Dutch settlers that arrived 500 years before now, they used to speak Dutch, but in 500 years the language changed, and there are a lot of words that come from Malaysia. They come from local languages, Zulu or local languages in South Africa. So it became really a Creole language. And when the Afrikaans during the apartheid, they were claiming that that was their language, they started to they tried to write this language, purifying it from these words, and but it was not possible. So in a way, this is also for me it was very interesting to see how always language is at the center of this kind of discussion about power, how you can use it and who can use it, and yes, this thing, it's very interesting what you say. Thank you so much for your comment.
Sir, just a quick question.
A question is never quick.
Okay, when we are talking about language and power, one of the most important theorists who comes into mind is Ngugi wa Thiong'o. So, in contrast to his philosophy of subversion of language and power, how will you place yourself against him or in relation to him?
I don't think about where I have to be. Really. I'm not running away from your question, but you know, every novel I write, every novel is a particular thing, you know, and it is like having a child, you know. You don't know who he gonna be, what he gonna really say, and what he will inspire to other people. But what you are sure is that this is my son, this is my daughter, and I gave him this and that education, and for the rest, it is the world to decide where I have placed this boy or this girl and what he has become. It is the same thing for me. For the book I write and the language I use while writing those books. I will give you 5 examples of coming from my 5 novels. The first one was like between Ivorian language invented and French high literature, standing heavy. The second were classic French literature mixed up with invention, like Romain Gary in La Vie devant soi. I don't know the English title. The third one, Black Manu, I have written it with 3,333 characters a chapter. I have decided that before. And every goddamn chapter has 3,333 characters, you know, and that create another language, and etc., etc. I cannot say I am here or here or here.